Thank you for listening. If you want to know more about us and our services, please visit our website at www.wsk9co.com.
We're going to talk about yelling as it relates to our dogs and life in general, and what and how dogs would perceive yelling, and the different kind of cycles of yelling, I guess, because there's a lot of different yelling things that happen. And yelling is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just what are you yelling for and at, and how it all works, because I think we all yell, and our dogs need to acknowledge that. But Michelle, do you ever yell at your dogs?
Yes.
Yeah.
All the time. In fact, not all the time, but there has definitely been some times in my life that my husband has said, "Hey, calm down."
Yep. Melissa, have you yelled at yours?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What was the situations?
I think probably some of the last ones would be, we were camping and there were some people. So for the first 2 days, there was like nobody in our little canyon. It was secluded. And then these people came, they just had ATVs, and Cooper was just kept being interested, and she knew she couldn't go on the other side of the road, but she'd want to come right by the road and look at him.
Yeah.
So I told her to come, and she didn't listen. So then I said it more purposeful and yelled it more, got after her, and she just came in. But yeah, if they kind of showing that more purpose, but having to yell, kind of like, no, I really mean
change
it.
Your voice. Yeah. Michelle, what have been the situations with yours?
Well, I yelled at my dogs this morning. Because now that we've taken the dog door away, I recently had to take the dog door away from my dogs. I have found that my dogs are extremely insecure outside by themselves, which has been really interesting for me and actually kind of hard. It's been hard for me as a trainer to be like, oh my gosh, I kind of failed them a little bit, but I'm not joking. They cannot be outside longer than 5 minutes without telling me that they are outside by themselves, and it is not okay.
Right.
And at 6 a.m, that's really not okay.
Right.
But that being said, I had to go out and yell at them in a quiet way.
Yeah.
Because that would not make any sense if I went out and started yelling and the neighbors were like, okay, the dogs are barking and now this lady's just outside yelling.
The lady's out arguing.
So I guess my yelling this morning was definitely just changing my voice to a more firm voice to get in the house.
Yeah. For sure. Shannon, have you yelled at Mr.?
Yes. One time Louis peed on my bed, and I was like, what are you doing? You don't pee on the bed. I took him to the doctor, and he was sick. And one time Boston peed in the back of my car, and I pulled the car over, and I was like, you do not pee in the car. And I was like screaming on the side of the road at my dog, and I took him to the vet, and he was sick. And I'm not a very yelly person in general, so I think my yelling has to do with, like, for me, it's at an emotional point. Like, you're a 15-year-old dog and you peed in the back of my car. Are you kidding me? You know? But other than that, I'm more like the disappointed mom kind of person. Oh, that was so naughty, kind of thing. Not like screaming, but I have yelled at them before when they're sick. I'm the worst mom ever.
At what point do you break? And I think the biggest why we want to talk about this is some people get so paranoid about yelling at the dogs, but also we'll kind of channel into what's appropriate yelling, what's not appropriate yelling, and yelling is different to everybody. Anytime you escalate your voice in any way, shape, or form, you're expressing emotion in somehow, and so there's different levels of yelling. But Michelle, what's your what shifts in you to turn from constructive to releasing? Does that make sense?
Kind of. Explain a little bit more.
So for me, yes, I've yelled at the dogs, but it's purposeful. It's not just yelling 99% of the time. But sleep deprived, jet lagged,
So you're saying
puppy
like
adds an element into the house, and Bora is pacing and pacing and pacing and pacing, and it's 2:00 in the morning, and he's still pacing and pacing, and so it's finally like, oh, lay down.
So are you asking me like when it goes from an emotional response
Yeah.
to a constructive response?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So we're just going to use my this morning.
Yeah.
It was definitely an emotional response because I didn't like I was upset that dogs were barking
Mhm.
at 6 a.m. and I didn't want my neighbors to be upset, so I was really upset.
Yep.
And also I felt like going out and yelling at them and bringing them in is exactly what they wanted.
Right.
They didn't care.
Yep.
They were technically, if you want to think about it this way, they were yelling. I came out and was yelling.
Yep.
So they were like, "Oh, we're yelling together, and then we got to come inside," and that's what we
Right.
wanted.
Yay.
So the second they walked through the door, that's when I felt like it became constructive because then I kicked them out of my pack and they had to go. They went to the bathroom or into their crates. Like I was like, "You can't do that. You're done."
Yeah.
So it was constructive at that point. It was not. You didn't get what you wanted. You
Right.
didn't get to come in and eat breakfast. You didn't get to come in and eat or come and hang out with me in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You came in, but you did not get what you wanted.
Right. Right. Melissa, when does it shift for you? So Cooper wasn't listening, but is there ever a time that your yelling is because of the emotional part of life that you go through?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like one example, I'll use Cooper again.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when we're running, she gets so excited and she keeps turning back at me, and
Uh-huh.
she stops paying attention,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll correct her and I'll give her, and then but at that point I just want a good run, and that is I release and I
Yeah.
stop it and I grab her and I say, no, this is what we're gonna do, and
Yep.
I want to have a good run. I'm
Right.
selfish right now,
Right. Right.
and also she knows what to do. So but then when she's going, it's like okay, and I
Mm-hmm.
build out of my emotional, and when I have that emotional kind of stop it,
Yeah.
she really like, oh crap, okay,
Yeah.
I get it,
Yeah.
and connects in. But it's definitely an emotional knock it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you're past the point of like you're not supposed to be goofing off this much,
Right. Right.
and it's mostly when we're crossing the road. So if we stop, and we have to wait for the light to change,
Uh-huh.
she just staring at me, and she knows that when it starts beeping fast,
Yeah.
that it's time to go.
Right.
And so we really had to start just running from that, because that's when she gets like,
Right.
So now we have to walk across the road, which is driving her crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's out of the pattern. Michelle, do you think it's okay to yell?
In certain circumstances, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think we can control our emotions completely.
Right.
So I mean,
Right.
that would be ridiculous to think that we could. But I also do think, yes, it's appropriate at
Mm-hmm.
times. Even this morning, I would say it was appropriate that I went out. And they knew I was mad when
Yeah.
I came out. And I didn't just come out and yell. I came out and my presence was known. I mean, I
Right.
flew out that door. Like,
Right.
I claimed my space out in that, even if it was like just I pushed them away from the door and it was like, this is not okay.
Yep.
I don't think it would be appropriate if I went out and just started yelling at them, because then we would all
Yeah.
just be yelling at each other.
Yeah.
Like, that would be ridiculous.
Right. Right.
Well, I'm thinking about it with people. If you're never going to show your true emotions with someone,
Mm-hmm.
like let's say with like my husband, I never disagreed with him, and I was
Right.
always happy, sunshine, go lucky, and bottling that up, that's dishonest to him,
Right.
and I'm just going to explode sometime. But
Right.
like if we want our dogs to respect us,
Mm-hmm.
we need to be honest with them, and if we're mad,
Yep.
let's be
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 mad.
honest about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess, especially when it comes to barking, because I think we hear that all the time, is that my dogs are barking, so I yell at them.
Yep.
What else are you doing besides for just yelling at them, though? Because then it really is, we're all just barking at the
Yeah.
door. We're
Yep.
all just yelling at the door.
Yep.
Whatever's out there's scary, right?
Exactly.
So there's got to be some other consequences. Like, they need to know your true emotion and how you're feeling, but then there's got to be something else to back it up, that you're not agreeing with them.
correct.
We're not doing this together.
right.
I'm
Yep.
doing this because I'm mad at you,
Yep.
not at the door.
Yep.
That reminds me of my neighbors, which I hope they don't listen to the podcast. I doubt they do. But they have two dogs that constantly bark out their bedroom window that overlooks our yard.
Yeah.
And so it's very exciting watching us
Sure.
garden and
Right.
watching us do everything.
Yep.
And they'll just bark, bark, bark. And she will just yell at them and be like, I know there are dogs out there. You don't have to say hi. And she'll just start yelling at them. And it's been amazing. I've tried to capture it on video without being creepy.
Right. Right.
But it makes the dogs escalate.
Yeah.
They get more like, ah!
yeah.
And so it's been interesting to see. And like, I'll go out, and if any of the dogs in our yard join in,
Uh-huh.
telling them to come and then yelling at them for not coming,
Yeah.
that shift, but giving that purposeful. But if we're just yelling at them for yelling, then
Right.
it's just a yelling party.
Right, exactly. You're just barking too. So one of the biggest things that, when people rescue a dog, you'll hear is, oh, I know they've been yelled at, and I know, this poor thing has just been abused, and I would say 99% of dogs, that's not the case. But when we yell, what behavior do we expect from our dogs, Shannon?
I think it's easier to define the question if you look at yelling as a level of correction, and you need to match the level of correction that you're giving to the energy of the bad behavior that the dog has. And so some people are just yelly people. They're the opposite of me. They yell at everything. And so they can yell and yell and yell at the dog till their face turns blue, and the dog doesn't perceive it as wrong because there's no levels of correction for that dog. If I start screaming and yelling at my dog, he probably thinks I'm going to kill him because I hardly ever reach up to that level, and so your levels of yelling have to be in a spectrum so that the dog can gain information from you.
I've had a couple of clients that the men are really vocal, loud. And so for me, I shift their correction to not talking. And so the dog at least gets that, oh, you're not talking anymore. There's a problem. Versus them keep escalating because their escalation it's all the same. But they feel like they're escalating. They're escalating inside, but they're loud, yelly people. And so for me, when I yell, I expect a response, and depending upon what's happening, most of the time the response should be to get to me. No matter what's going on, you should get to me, or lay down and settle. That's like two of my, if I have to escalate to that level, you better make friends with me real fast, or you better just stop everything and just exist. What do you, Melissa, expect from your crew?
For Yuki, nothing much yet, just kind of response. I want her to pay attention to me, which is fascinating already at this age, kind of seeing when she's at what level I need to be, because she'll kind of already kind of say, like, oh, maybe I can go a little bit more. Cooper, I expect her to come to heel. We as a puppy, we call it, we're going to conference, but it's heel position. And if she's doing something and I have to escalate, I expect her to come to heel really fast. And she always acts quite, I want her to come and I expect eye contact. I expect her to disconnect from whatever she's obsessing over, but to come to me.
Michelle, what is your expectations?
I think it depends on the situation and where my energy level is.
Mm-hmm.
This morning, I expected them to get the heck away from me and wherever I needed them to go then.
Yep.
But I expected them to stop what they were doing and turn and look at me.
Yeah.
At least. And be like, oh no. But other situations, and I really think this would match just the level, and I mean, I've seen it in action. If I'm panicked that they're going to get hurt,
Mm-hmm.
it better be a get to me. And,
Right.
And it's going to be a higher pitched scream.
Yep.
Like it's going to be because I'm scared.
Yep.
And so I expect them to turn around and be like, oh my gosh, I have to get to mom. She's panicking. She's freaking out. What is wrong with her?
Right.
Versus what did I do that's wrong?
Yeah. Yep. For sure. I think knowing Louis, he's definitely a connection kind of, he's in trouble. And what do you feel like some of the things that created that, because even when he was here and he would get in trouble, he was like, okay, then let's fix this kind of a thing. How do you feel like you taught that?
I have no idea. I have a really small house, I guess. My house has 3 rooms in it, pretty much. And so he never was away from me. And so we're just kind of like connected all the time. And maybe part of it too is because I don't have, I guess if I'm extremely angry, it's a really extreme. I'm not an extreme personality. I'm pretty like mellow all the time. I like to think I am. Anyone jump in and say anything different at any time. But he being connected to me and watching the subtlety of the levels of distress or disappointment or happiness, I think that being together all the time, he was able to learn that from watching me. Our dogs are very observant, and that's what they do all the time, watch you to get information. And so I think just him watching me and being with me all the time, he knows when he's in trouble. He can tell by your body language, by the shift of your energy, by the way that you turn to look at him, that he's like, oh, okay, let's change the picture then. Do you agree with that?
For sure. Michelle, how did you teach it to your dogs?
We're talking about connection, right?
We're talking about when you yell.
Just yelling in general.
And they connect to you.
I think it's different. I think, as you were talking about, I think all three of my dogs have a different connection with me. And as I'm thinking about their puppyhood, I can see exactly where all of it came from. I feel like Rambo is really connected, but he had a lot of issues when he was a puppy. So, and a lot of frustration that came from me and my husband when he was really young. So his response is to run away from us when we're mad, because we did have all those emotions when he was really vulnerable. And it really is not that he's afraid of us. He's just like, oh no, I did something wrong. I've got to get away from this situation. Prudence, we wanted her to connect with Rambo. So she really doesn't have nearly as much connection. And at this point she's deaf. So if we yell, it doesn't do anything.
Right.
Anyways.
Right.
But she does watch Rambo. So a lot of her stuff is like, she's not as like frantically running as Rambo is.
Yeah.
But she definitely is like, why is he walking? I'm going to follow him.
Yeah.
And do what he's doing. She mimics him a lot more. And it was totally us. We wanted her to be connected to him. That's why we got her.
Right. Right.
She's a totally different dog anyway. I mean, she's just has less connection in general anyways.
Yep.
So, and Murphy is so connected to us, but he came to us in such a different part of our lives that we were honestly, that was probably the perfect time for us to get a dog. We were really ready to have a dog. So he went everywhere with us. He did everything with us. He's still the dog that goes everywhere with us when we leave the two littles home. So his response is definitely more like, why are you freaking out? I got to get to you, and I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix this, Mom. I don't know why you're upset, but I've got to fix it.
Yep. For sure. Melissa, how do you feel like you created that to you behavior versus running away from you behavior?
I don't know. I kind of think what Shannon said, when you first got Cooper, we lived in a really small apartment, and we always had her with us, and it was a very kind of intimate kind of setting there. And she's very much like, I want to get to you and I want to fix it. And I think part of that was just our relationship early on. Yeah. And if she did get in trouble, we would have her do something. So kind of like, okay, you got in trouble for this, but kind of show us what you can do. Yep. And for her, that really kind of helped. At that point, if she did something, she would kind of look back at us and connect, and then we would start working with her, which would increase the connection. Yeah. And I guess for a lot of dogs, that might not be a good time to work. But for Cooper, it was very much, I want to fix something. I want to please you right now. Right. How can I please you? Yep. And she was so earnest about it that kind of grew. Yeah. And it just kind of snowballed into, she makes that connection and she will do anything to please at that point. Yep.
I do think Murphy's the hardest one to correct, though, because he is the fixer. So he's always like, I can't just put him somewhere and he's okay with it. He's like, no, I have to be next to you because we have to fix this. We have to fix this.
That's Bora. Yeah.
And that's Cooper's problem, too. If I get after another dog, she's there. I want to fix it. What can I do? I'm going to help it. I'm going to pitch in, and I'm going to get... And, like, with Yuki, it's in the middle of the night that it used to happen in the early crate training. So I couldn't really get it on video. Right. But if we got after Yuki in the crate, Cooper would be right there like, how can I do it? And she would start offering behaviors. And it's like, Cooper, no, you don't need to make us happy right now. Like, we're getting mad at Yuki. Yeah. Let it be. Yep. But if we get after another dog, she's, oh, it's me. It's something. Yep.
For sure. I think a lot of, from training standpoint and, a dog living with a trainer versus living with a non-trainer. We call it the average person because we're trainers and the poor dogs that live with us. for us, we're constantly correcting, but asking them to continue doing what they're doing in a sense. So like with Trigger, she's now decided that biting is really like she's starting to latch on, and like we're now like some of this stock dog raunchiness is kicked in. And so if I correct her, she's coming back pretty fierce, which is fine. But we keep doing the same thing that we were doing. So if I'm petting her and she gets mouthy and I correct her, I don't let her go away because that's what she wants to do. Fine, I'm going to yell at you, and then I'm going to go into the room. And so we don't let her go away. We keep petting her. We keep doing it until she finally surrenders to that, and then she can go do whatever she wants. So, and I know that all of you guys do that is I'm going to correct you for something, but you're still going to be with me, and we're going to keep doing what we initially started doing. And so, we just create that yelling and trouble and corrections are never things that we want our dogs to go away from us. It's more, if you feel the escalation, you probably should get to me. And dogs work really well in that situation because they do want the pack to be happy and to please. And we should change gears, right? We should getting them in the crate. I do the same thing. If you're going to stand out here and be terrible, you're going to come in and be into your crate, even though I know they want to come in with you, right? So they felt it, you put them in their crate, and that was not what they wanted because they want to be with us. And so, we're creating this constant be with us, hang with us, get used to getting in trouble, and you're not going to go away from us, from being in trouble.
And Yuki's doing that same thing, and I noticed with her, the yelling, she does like, okay, I'll just like show you how much I can yell.
Yep.
And she kind of comes back harder, and I've noticed, and this might sound weird, and you guys can kind of tell me what you think about it, but you can yell with your body language.
Yeah.
And so for her, she responds to that.
Yep.
If I put my hands on my hips, she like, okay, I know this is something. But if I vocally, if I combine the two, she's much better. But I notice I really have to have my body language.
Yep.
And she, okay, I'll follow you without biting your ankles or latching onto your pant leg.
Right, yep.
But that you can yell with your body.
Yeah.
Like you need all of it. And you can't yell and be like, I don't know, when people yell nicely, I hate that.
Right.
Because that's not effective.
Right.
At all.
Yep, exactly. And I think, I haven't had a chance to talk to Allison, and I'm going to tonight because I'm leaving and I need to fix some things with her. But with the puppies, you don't want to discourage the raunchiness because of what our goals are with them. And when you're training stock dog stuff, it's a lot of nonverbal. When I watched the stock dog trials and I was watching these people yell, it was actually less effective than the guys that were super quiet actually had more success with their dogs because they were working together versus I'm going to yell everything at you and so you can just run amok and then I'll just give direction. So I think breed has a lot to do with it, but yelling should never be a fearful thing, and it's something that we should always expect connection and demand to us when there's yelling. And I've explained to clients that if you get an argument, I would expect that your dog should be to you, trying to help make it okay. And if your dog isn't, then we need to create that instead of the dog running away and hiding from you. Because yelling is not a bad thing, and it happens in every household and in every emotion. So yelling is okay as long as we're not just barking with our dogs.
And don't be afraid that yelling is going to hurt your dog's feelings if you're using it as a correction. And Louis is a super extreme example of this, I think, because he has like raging tantrums. Like he goes into a rage. That's what it is. And once that you handle the rage and it's over and everything's fine, he goes totally back to exactly normal and wants to be with you and cuddle with you. You know, you can end the tantrum and go sit on the sofa and he'll snuggle right up in you and go right to sleep. And that is like the ultimate goal, that your yelling or your correction stopped the naughty behavior, and then we just go totally back to being normal. So from a person that has an extreme dog, I just want you to know, audience, that this is totally possible and it's totally true that it can happen.
I was thinking about it when you were talking about the adoption dogs too. First of all, I don't think as many dogs are as abused as people think are. But that being said, they're in a new house, and we have to be honest with them, and we have to give them the opportunity to learn to trust us.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then they never will.
Right.
So yelling at them, and when we're talking about yelling, I mean, this morning, we're talking 10 seconds of emotion, and then I had to check myself to make sure that and if
now
you
what's next? Yeah.
Right. And if you can't check yourself within like 20 seconds, maybe you shouldn't have a dog.
Right.
Like,
right.
Or maybe an adoption dog isn't the right dog for you.
Yeah. Yep.
But we need to be honest with our dogs for them to learn to trust us, especially those dogs.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. And I think that, I think just to kind of wrap this whole thing up is, it's normal. It's normal. And they need to hear it, and they need to be a part of it. And you're right, Michelle, if you can't put yourself in check, you probably shouldn't even be living with another person. I mean, you dogs call us out on who we are, and they're going to bring out more emotion than any human being is going to bring out in us. And so, they'll keep us in check, and they remind us who we are. And so we have to be honest and real, because dogs will call us out on the garbage. And they're like, yeah, I don't believe you. This is not, that you're not acting normal around me. And then they start questioning. So for sure. So yelling is normal, but it's got to be constructive, and there's got to be purpose. And there you have to have an end result or an end goal with it.
Thank you for listening. If you want to know more about us and our services, please visit our website at www.wsk9co.com. And as always, we urge you to get out and train.